there will be explanations of vote from certain delegations, and for that purpose I call first on the delegation of India.
Mr. President, I come before this Assembly tonight formally to explain the vote which my delegation will cast on the important question before us, and also to make an appeal to the conscience of mankind and to men of goodwill everywhere. The vast movement for national liberation and freedom, which has been sweeping through the great continents of Asia and Africa, is now reaching a critical phase. Over the greater part of Asia, peoples numbering hundreds of millions who had been struggling and striving for their liberty and independence have freed themselves from the shackles which bound them. It can be said to the credit of some of the imperial powers, this process was happily consummated in some countries in an atmosphere free from bitterness and violence. But in Africa, we see the spectacle of an entrenched colonialism turning its back upon the swelling tide of nationalism. Earnestly hope that the present grave situation in Tunisia, and indeed in Morocco as well, will not be viewed from a narrow or limited viewpoint, but will be seen and comprehended in the wider context of the history of our times. Broadness of vision and real statesmanship alone can find the key to a situation of such urgency and magnitude. So far as the resolution recommended by the political committee is concerned, while we respect the intentions of the sponsors, it does seem to us that the resolution hardly reflects the grave and pressing realities of the present situation in Tunisia. There are unfortunate omissions of great significance in that resolution. No mention is made of the restoration of peaceful conditions or normal civil liberties, which are so essential if negotiations are to take place in an atmosphere of freedom and mutual trust. There is also no mention of the United Nations good offices. Such good offices, in our view, would have enabled this organization to discharge its responsibilities in this matter and would have assisted the parties in reaching an amicable settlement. It would also have helped to restore materially the belief of the Tunisian people in the good intentions of France. The resolution calls upon both parties equally to resume negotiations. But it should be remembered that it was not the Tunisians who broke them off. Having expressed these reservations about the resolution which is before this Assembly, let me say that the future of Tunisia transcends any resolutions which we may or may not pass.
The present upheaval in North Africa symbolizes these endeavors most modestly. It is the supreme duty of the United Nations to air the grievances of oppressed nations and to take measures to eradicate the attempts of certain powers to immortalize the outmoded policies of colonialism. Unless with conviction and courage a paragon is set to uphold the principles of the Charter, the path to our objectives will be crowded with victims of our disbelief.
Those in favor of the resolution, please signify. Those against?
Three against.
Abstentions? the resolution is adopted by 44 votes in favor, 3 against, and 8 abstentions. And that
Explanation of vote, Czechoslovakia.
the delegate of Czechoslovakia on an explanation of vote.
Ample mais très cordiale discussion qui vient d'avoir lieu au sein de la commission spéciale sur le rapport du commissaire des Nations Unies en Érythrée, il est certes inutile qu'en ce moment je prenne la parole pour réexaminer ici les aspects fondamentaux de la question ou que je réitère les déclarations que j'ai déjà faites à ce sujet. Grâce à la collaboration loyale entre le distingué commissaire des Nations Unies, l'administration britannique, qui depuis 11 ans avait la tâche ingrate d'administrer ce territoire, et le gouvernement éthiopien, sous la haute direction de Sa Majesté impériale, 3 années d'études et de travail par le Conseil des ministres des Affaires étrangères des 4 grandes puissances et 4 années d'enquête et de discussion par l'Organisation des Nations Unies ont ainsi abouti au succès que nous fêtons aujourd'hui dans cette salle. D'autre part, sans le haut prestige et l'influence personnelle de Sa Majesté impériale, il était tout à fait certain que les populations de l'Éthiopie et de l'Érythrée n'auraient pas accepté sincèrement et librement la recommandation de cette organisation. C'est là, je pense, un gage sûr pour l'avenir et pour la stabilité même du règlement qui a été mis en vigueur le 11 septembre dernier. L'heureux aboutissement de toutes les fatigues, études et discussions constitue un succès particulier de notre organisation à plusieurs points de vue.
The report. Those in favor of the resolution, please signify. Against? Abstentions? The resolution is adopted by 51 votes in favor, none against, and 5 abstentions. And this action which we have just taken marks the conclusion of a successful chapter in the history of the United Nations and the beginning of a new era for the people of Eritrea. And I don't want to let this occasion pass without adding, as President of the Assembly, my congratulations to His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor of Ethiopia, and to the two peoples of Eritrea and Ethiopia, now joined together in a federation under the Ethiopian crown. The question of Eritrea before the United Nations represents a striking example of effective international cooperation brought to a happy conclusion through appropriate and efficient procedures. The decision of the General Assembly upon which the new federation is based was arrived at through investigation, followed by the democratic processes of discussion and decision. The continuing responsibility of the Assembly in the implementation of its decision was placed in the hands of its Commissioner, Mr. 𝐄𝐑𝐈-𝐁𝐀𝐃𝐌𝐄, and I know that I express the sentiments of the Assembly when I offer to him our gratitude and our admiration for the way in which he has discharged the responsibilities which this body placed on him.